Hi there, Trusty Herd. I'm Dr. Tim Thayne, author of Not by Chance and founder of Trustyy. And this is the Not by Chance podcast. We spotlight the latest innovations in adolescent treatment and show parents how to keep the momentum going at home. You'll hear real success stories from experts, families, and teens because your family's progress is not by chance. With today's episode, I'll be joined by my wife, Roxanne, and business partner. She's been with me every step of the way from the beginning. So I'm excited to be able to talk with her and share some ideas with you as we kick off this new season. Well, Roxanne, I'm really excited about this podcast today. We have a lot of exciting things to share. And I wanted to begin this time because this is the opener of season 5. I wanted to share with the audience the Trusty Herd, and you're going to share what that really means later on. I want to share with you what's different from past episodes versus what's going on today, and this kickoff of a new episode. And I don't know if it happened while I was jogging one day or what, but I decided what I wanted to do was to start to extract in more intentional ways the innovations and the great things that are going on in treatment programs across the spectrum of treatment, and make that more accessible to parents. We still have the same vision, which is to strengthen the family and to help them. But there's this challenge that we tackled. I think we tried to tackle it with Homeward Bound, which was, hey, there's this great stuff going on in treatment and this high structure and the setting that's been perfectly prepared or really deliberately prepared. And now the teen is going home, but the parents haven't been involved in all that. How do we help the parents kind of catch up and maybe utilize some of the great things going on in treatment for their teen afterwards? And so Homeward Bound was a beginning point of that. But as I look back on the career, the full career, that actually has been the theme. It hit me today again at a deeper level that starting from way back at Virginia Tech and when I was doing solution-focused leadership, that's what I was trying to do. And then once we started Homeward Bound, there was this idea of how do we transition from the greenhouse to the garden? The metaphor now, and just to not skip something that's also in theme here, is the family bridge. The whole idea was how do we bring the parents into the treatment process so they get a little more of a peek into what's going on? And the idea behind that was if they can see this good work happening, if they can have a sense of progress being made in treatment, they'll be able to engage in a way that they couldn't otherwise, and they'll buy into the process and speed up treatment success and then be more prepared when it's time for their teen to come home. So the theme has continued.
Yeah, and if I can introduce another theme, I know that therapists love metaphors, but I've been thinking about the little flakes of gold that you come across as you are creating your life, creating your career, and we were doing that. Pretty soon we started to get nuggets. I feel like we finally arrived at the mother lode for everything coming together. And that's why we're so excited for season 5 is to share this with you, to share the best of what we have learned over 20 years just doing this aftercare work, not to mention the work that we did before with families or the work in wilderness and residential, but also the power of putting it all together now in a new way. And we're going to explain more about that next.
Yeah. So let me finish off this metaphor. So I want you to picture yourself, you're a scientist in a laboratory, and the lab has been, every detail has been thought of. The temperature is controlled. All the elements are controlled. So in that setting, you can innovate and create something and test things. Test things so that ultimately you can identify what's working, what really moves the needle, what changes things. But then the challenge is, okay, you want to then take that innovation out into the wild, so to speak, with the messiness of the world, the environment where you can't control everything. And that's essentially almost exactly like what treatment programs are doing. They are the laboratory in the sense that they can control many of the variables. They can simplify and eliminate a lot of outside variables so that they can focus on one or two or three things that will move the needle.
Right.
And so with this episode, with this season, we're going to be interviewing treatment professionals that all of them, I believe as we get into this, we're going to find out, we're going to ask them the question, okay, what's one of the things that has bugged you about the treatment setting, the laboratory, so to speak, that you've innovated, that you've made improvements on so that you could get more change to happen? Now, I want to let the audience know again, to remind you that, parents have the most difficult job in the world, which is to do everything they got to do to maintain a household, make a living, progress in their own personal lives. At the same time, they have to take care of their children and address the concerns as they arise over the life cycle.
Mm.
And they're doing it in close quarters with a lot of intensity, a lot of emotion, and they're not removed from it like a staff member in a treatment program would be, where they can apply a principle without all that emotion. So they've got the hardest job in the world. And so back to the treatment program is we really want to pull these nuggets that you're talking about out of these professionals and then make it accessible in any way we can through describing it, through research, through case examples, through stories, so that you can picture it, visualize it, and then apply it.
Right. I think that one of the terms that we've talked about is the cross-pollination that's going to happen in this season, where we're bringing experts from different populations that they're serving, different expertise, and bringing them in and saying, what can you tell our audience that you are doing that is working? And of course, it's not going to look the same at a home as it does at a treatment program, but what could they do to do something similar? Or like you said, move the needle, even 10%. I think that we start to think if we can't replicate what they do, if we can't get those levels of success, then we're not going to be successful as parents. And that's not true at all. Mm. Any movement is good movement. Any progress is progress. And so I think that cross-pollination is going to be helpful. But what I'm most excited about is also having just parents who have been there. They've walked in your shoes. They have felt this. Tim and I have as well. We've had a child in treatment. And so we understand how scary it is when you're dropping them off and then you're saying, okay, they'll be out in 4 weeks. What are we supposed to be doing? How can we get ready for that? And we're going to tell you how to get ready for that.
So it's fitting that today we, with that whole thing in mind, that the purpose of this season is to make things more accessible to parents. So it's really fitting today that as we talk about making the nuggets, the most important things accessible to parents, that we announce the launch of Trustyy. Now, this has been a long time in the making. The seeds of this have been planted long ago, but it started many, many years ago with a client that I was working with in Florida. And as he was driving me back to the airport after a 3-day home visit, he kept pointing out all along the way all of the different houses, and he wanted to drill into me that what he had learned from me and our process over those 3 days is something every single family that we could imagine would benefit from. And so he asked the question, how are you going to get this into their hands? And that means it's got to be really inexpensive. That means it's got to be, honestly, it's got to be in technology. And at the time, this is almost 20 years ago, and so there was really not a means to do that. But now we have it, and so it's really exciting. That seed was planted a long time ago, and I have to give you a lot of credit because I remember when I had some of these ideas germinating the last few years. The innovating is not easy, and you
can say that again.
It's definitely not easy. So I could see the vision, but kind of making our way there has been a long, twisty road to get to this point.
It's been exciting to work on it together, but it's definitely taken both of us and a whole team of people Tim is a visionary, but he's also great at the details, but I'm great at the details for how to get it from his vision into the reality and how to market that. Um, and I'm just really, I feel a lot of gratitude for those who have gone before and worked alongside us and all of those other professionals in the field who have trusted us and cheered us on to this point. When you become an expert in one thing, you have to say no to a lot of other things. And we have gone deep on treatment success and helping families be successful long term after excellent treatment. And when you came to me at one point, I remember we were in the bathroom, I was getting ready or something, and you were trying to tell me about how you wanted to build a technology. And I just kept getting ready. And you finally said, "Can you turn around and just look at me for a minute?" And I stopped what I was doing and I listened and I said, "Do you really need to do this?" Because things were going very well for us at Homeward Bound. We really had hit our stride and we were making a big difference. But you felt like we needed to do it for more.
Mm-hmm. That was a very powerful moment because you didn't just turn and listen. You listened, and then you said, "Okay, I will hear you out. I will listen to you and be open to what you have to say, but answer this question first. Do you really need to?" And that kind of stopped me because I was ready to sell you on the idea until that happened, and I realized, no, what I need to do is just check in deep inside and say, do I really need to do this? Put myself and you and our family through maybe more stress than we'd been through before. And that was the feeling.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you said, "I feel like everything I have done in my life has led me to this moment, and to not do it would be wrong."
That's right.
And I
I
said,
did say that.
"All right, let's do it then."
And I
So
was amazed at just how quick you said, all right. But it was one of those unique moments where it just felt like there was real sincerity and honesty about that. So here we are, after, helping found Outback, a wilderness program, being involved in residential treatment programs, starting Homeward Bound 20 years ago next month. And,
building the family bridge.
oh, yes, the family bridge.
Working on Rallyist for treatment programs. That didn't work out, but that's another story.
That will come back.
It's coming
It's
back
not
later.
done. But yeah, so all of those things point the same direction,
Mhm.
and that is helping strengthen the family, helping improve outcomes after treatment. So here we are. This latest thing was, again, to boil it down, is we wanted to create something that would take the best of what we had learned along the way to help families. And one of the hard parts of talking to so many families over the years that would call in wanting our support at Homeward Bound, they knew it was a really big need. It was powerful. It was going to be helpful, but it was too expensive for most of the families. And so that was what triggered. It's like, okay, how do we, again, make this so inexpensive that it's available to anybody?
Mhm.
And so that's what we want to talk about now.
And I just want to point out, that there will always be those services available to those who can afford those. And we're so grateful for them, and we love Homeward Bound. It was our brainchild. And so we are not taking away from that, but we are just offering it to so many more people at a much uh, more affordable price, more accessible, more timely, more convenient situation. And that's been the dream, to make this go far and wide. And that means far beyond the borders of the United States.
Right. So let's kind of break this down. There are three components to
Mhm.
what Trustyy is and what we're now ready to deliver to families. And it's the coaching, that we've been doing for all of these years. There's an element of skill and process that's been built into that. We'll go into that in more detail. It's the curriculum that we've developed over the years that plays such a vital role in all of this. And then now, as you know, Trustyy is an app. It's a technology that we'll get into the details of that.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting for our listeners for you to talk about what you have found as you have interviewed dozens of treatment programs. I know you talked to one just yesterday and asked him about his experience in trying to provide great aftercare. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, that was interesting. We'd created a presentation, and the goal was to share this with treatment programs so that none of their families would go without good aftercare. And so we had the presentation all created.
This was a short-term boys program, correct?
Short-term, yeah, insurance-based boys program. And I was talking to the clinical director. So he definitely had his finger on the pulse of what was going on. And my first question was, what are the strengths and weaknesses you see in your aftercare, your transition planning, and your aftercare process? And he didn't really answer it directly, but he basically said, as he began to think through it, he said, at the end of treatment, the process is that through therapy sessions and some forums we essentially have the parents and the teen come together around a plan that is essentially their expectations for their teen coming home. And those expectations would address the big worries that they had. And he said, so we get that document ready, and he says, always, in the end, the teen agrees to it all.
Yeah.
They agrees to that. He said, but the problem is that they don't really follow it afterwards. And I pulled up the presentation at that point. This is a father that was in our pilot group of parents who had teens in treatment or they'd just recently gotten home from treatment. And we were testing out our parent groups, basically. And this is what he said.
Yeah, he said, our son's been home 1 month now, and it's been at least 3 weeks since we even looked at the plan we spent hours creating before discharge. Now he doesn't even want to revisit it, saying, that was for way back when I first got home. Way back 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. And, honestly, I can't blame any of the teens out there that have that experience. If you think about it, they're still not fully independent. They can't make all the best decisions. So they need their parents to step in and do very hard things like have them go to a treatment program. But they're under the structure of this program, and their ability to get out and move forward in their life in some ways really connected to their agreement to this plan. So they may push back during the negotiation process at the end of treatment, but in the end, they're probably going to say, okay, sure, yeah, I'll do it. But in the back of their mind, many of them are probably saying, yes, I'll do it, but I don't think this will last very long. And so that was the reality. And as this parent said that in our pilot group, all of the parents whose teen had already come home in the group, they were all nodding their head, very big, saying, yep, that's exactly what's going on in our home. In other words, that home contract, some people have called it, or the plan for moving forward was what we called it in the past, was put on the shelf and collecting dust very, very quickly.
Yeah, and that's sad because everybody was intent on making this go well, and the human nature that we are all, exposed to, it just undermines it. And so that's why we have a 3-pronged approach to make sure that this goes well, and it shores you up in places that you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
One of the Achilles heels that you always talk about is consistency.
Yeah. I spoke with many, many families over all those years. And if I was sharing with them what it is we did in our coaching services, I've talked to them about the parenting principles. Here we're going to help you, set expectations and make them clear. And we're going to help you nurture the relationship with your teen. We're going to help you follow through with the positive or negative consequences of that. And some of these basic things we know are true principles. And many of the parents would say, well, we've done all that. That's what we tried this and we tried that. And they went down the list. We've done everything you're talking about. And then based on my own experience and seeing this, talking to many families over the years, I'd say, let me ask you this. How did you do on consistency, of applying that principle consistently over time. And by the way, that's one of the true principles none of us can get away from. Essentially, if we're trying to make a big change in our life, we have to consistently apply the new thing consistently over time. And that's where a lot of us fall short. That's why we have the same New Year's resolutions every year. And so that's the point where the parents would always say, no, I really haven't. Parents, since college, my passion has been helping families thrive. For decades, my team and I have delivered premier in-home aftercare, but it could be costly, and many families were left without support. That's why we created Trusty, a unique blend of proven curriculum, personalized coaching, and intuitive technology. Starting at just $129 a month, you can access the tools and expertise that keep your family on track at a fraction of the cost. Visit Trustyy.com, spelled with 2 Y's, to learn more and subscribe today.
And the way that we can do that now is through technology. And so that is where the Trusty app came from, was the need to remove that human element of having a coach sitting right there next to you and have something that was actually sitting right there next to you 24/7. And what do all of us have within arm's reach at all times? It's our mobile devices. We need to have that because we are so dependent on knowing what the weather is, what the time is, how far till we get there, where our children are, what information is coming in, where our coupons are. All of those kinds of things are run from our phones. Now with the technology, we are given all kinds of help. In fact, I'll just tell you a story. This morning, I was thinking about our son who wants to have a big barn party this weekend and have some of his buddies come and play music, and it's going to be really fun. And of course, they've given a lot of instruction on how to keep the barn clean and all of this. But I thought, oh my goodness, he wants that, but I don't think that he has paid me for the tuition I fronted him. And so I went right to the app, the Trusty app, and I put in there, you cannot have a barn party until you have paid me that tuition back. And that needs to be done by Friday. And I was just thinking, Tim, like it used to be that parents would have to pit themselves against the other parent saying, you need to talk to your dad about that. Well, now I'm just saying you need to refer to the Trusty app. What's the Trusty app telling you? Mm-hmm. And if it says that you can have it or you've earned it, it's great. It's all there for everyone in the family to see, unless you make it private. And it's very clear. And it takes all of that emotion out of it. He can see it when he wants to see it. He can rage about it when he wants to. I don't have to see it and get triggered. And it's just taken care of. And it's just black and white. And it's something that he can trust that I'm going to follow through on. And I can watch his trustworthiness grow at the same time.
That's a really great example, real world example from a mom that, wants to help her son follow through with something. And I'm sure all the parents out there can relate with that. And a lot of times, by the way, one of the reasons we aren't consistent in a lot of cases as parents is that we know when we bring up the issue, it's going to trigger a lot of negative emotions. It's going to be painful. And it's for that reason, unless it's really has to be addressed, we might avoid it. And that's where the inconsistency comes. So technology is the answer for a lot of things. Where in the past we could do home visits, but the expense of that kept a lot of people from being able to do it. That's a high value situation where you could go into the home and really kind of see their culture and really help them out at a deeper level than you could if they even came to your office. But what technology now does with this app is it creates daily engagement. Mm-hmm. And that's something we haven't been able to do in the past, where daily they're getting notifications of following through and being consistent. And again, there comes the consistency over time. The other thing that happens is if we're not consistent right out the gate when our teen comes home from treatment, let's say we're not quite ready and we haven't figured out how we're going to implement that plan, we don't have a means to implement it, we get behind the 8 ball, sort of behind the curveball maybe, and we have a difficult time catching up. Mm-hmm. And by then, it's like this boy, it's been 3 weeks since we've even looked at the contract. That's old news now. We don't want to go back to that. So now what does the parent do? They know it's going to be really painful to bring it back up. So having this out the gate, day one, rolling it out, helping you follow through is one of the big, ways to help something that's true and works in a laboratory where people are kind of watching everything happen. They've got lots of staff. Now getting it back home, how does two parents or even one parent now follow through? It's going to require something like Trusty.
Yeah, we've always called it the third parent or the second parent, depending on who you are. It is such a benefit to have something to go to remember things for you, to not be emotional about it, to help you as a sounding board. And so we won't get into anything more about the app today because there's so much more to talk about. We'll go into that in other episodes. But the AI feature is something I use all the time. The Trustyy AI has been such a blessing to me just in creating scripts for difficult discussions.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, this is what's going on. What should I do? I've had my son use it when he wanted to plan a camping trip with friends. And it did everything from giving him ghost story ideas to how to involve his parents, to how to stay safe, making sure we know where he is and what time he's going to be coming and going. Anyway, it's been just a real great part of the app that I didn't really think I was going to like. I think like most of us were like, what's AI? That's weird. I don't know if I can handle that. And can that replace a person? Well, no, it doesn't ever replace a person. But as far as something that gets your mind going and starts brainstorming with you, it's been
it's
huge
great
benefit.
Use for that. Yeah. There are so many things that we can't talk about with the app. Because we don't have time.
Right.
And we will break it down further. But let's move on to the next one. So there are 3 legs to the stool. And we talked about technology. We've got curriculum and coaching left. Let's get into the curriculum.
Yeah. I just wanted to read a quote from one of the mothers from our pilot group. This was Jen from Washington. And she said, "The Trustyy curriculum provides a framework for family life and parenting leadership that I never had growing up. I couldn't bring that innate knowledge into my own parenting and didn't know how to create it. Now, for the first time in my life, I actually feel confident as a parent and a leader in my family to implement the structure we all need to be healthy and happy."
Mm-hmm.
So for the first time in her life, she sees it as a whole.
Yeah.
And that was what we were able to provide.
Yeah. If Jen, if you're out there, if you hear this, I have been so impressed with you. A lot of our curriculum has been on the Family Bridge for years and years and years. And I think most parents didn't realize the treasure it really was. Because if you think about it, we were trying over a period of 18 to 20 years to constantly improve the ability of parents to actually follow through and apply true principles in day-to-day life. And the refinement of that over time created a framework that is a powerful, powerful thing. And she saw it, and it was such a validating thing. She devoured the entire library that we had on Family Bridge. And in her mind, the way her mind thinks, she saw it as a framework that all of a sudden made sense of everything. And so it's been really fun to hear her talk about how powerful the curriculum is. And if you get into the app, it's a ton of curriculum there.
It is. One thing I just want to point out is that our book, the Not by Chance book, is the audio book is actually on the app for free forever. So even after you stop using the app, stop your subscription, you'll still have that book free forever to keep referring to. But we have the book, we have articles from our 4 yearbooks, the issues of the yearbook that we did. We have masterclass video courses, and some of the names of those are the Not by Chance video course that we did 10 years ago that just expands on everything that we did in the book. Also, rookie mistakes any parent can learn to avoid. Dream Parenting Made Real, Beyond Rules and Consequences. There's just so many great things that are available on there that you can just pick up and take a little bit at a time in the library. It's all based on real clinical work that Tim has done over all of these years. Solution-focused therapy was a huge catalyst for everything that we built with Not by Chance and Homeward Bound, and keeping that compassionate and loving view of what you're doing so that this doesn't become some kind of a behavioral punishment, reward situation, but it's something that is really tapping into your innate love and history with this child, and it helps build on that.
Mm-hmm. So you could spend hours and hours on the curriculum that's available to you. The third piece is the coaching. This brings the human element into everything, and we're doing it right now in formats of parent groups. So these groups get together, we cover topics, and then there's Q&A. And the powerful thing that we've seen so far is just people coming, having real experiences with the content, real experience bringing their child home, sharing it with each other as we're talking about different principles. And it just helps kind of connect all the dots. And there are parents a little ahead of each other, so they're further down the road, and they can share some things that only another parent could hear in that way, or they could share that another parent in their shoes would really resonate with.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful to have an expert, but to have a peer supporting you and to learn from your peers, that's just another level. I don't know why we just kind of let down and go, oh yeah, you get me. You get why I was mad. You get why this fell apart, or you get how exciting this is. We have one mom who is just really great in our Trustyy, her Facebook group, just sharing the wins of her daughter getting a job or her daughter starting at the gym, and just saying it's week 2 and it's challenging, but here we go. And I just really appreciate that kind of openness. And I think all of the parents do when you can share and cheer each other on, you've had a bad week, but there's something good in the future because you've seen it in other people's lives. It plays out.
There's one more thing I want to bring up that kind of ties a lot of this together that's inside the app, and it's called My Path. And the My Path is essentially a step-by-step guide to helping you as a parent prepare for your teen to come home, and also a similar kind of path for your teen. Our goal is actually to get this app into the treatment program where the teen can sign up there and maybe in the setting of therapy, sit with their therapist and begin to work their way down the path. The general title, and we're creating multiple versions of the path depending on the treatment program and all of that, but our general one is going to be called something like, for the teen, How to Get What You Want and Build a Relationship of Trust with Your Parents at the Same Time. And it's a step-by-step guide of how they can do that.
And that is not too good to be true.
No.
I mean, you experienced this just working with a family in the Midwest recently, how it went off with that family.
Yeah, it was so good. It was kind of a prototype level of this, not having the full gamified version that we're going to have in the app. But this is a unique situation where there was 2 young men that come back from a program, and they were, I was in a home visit. We're basically going to talk about the expectations and all of that. And what I did is walk them through a process with just the young men, without their parents being there. And then the teens presented it to their parents, and it was their plan. And
not mom and dad's plan.
Not mom and dad's plan. And by the way, it was really, it was just a little tweaking, maybe because I was there sort of as a parent/professional helping them tweak along the way. But even on the My Path version of this, I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of tweaking in a lot of cases. They may come up with a better plan. And by the way, a better plan is always going to be one that the teen buys into and owns. If they own the plan, even if it's not completely what you want, it's a better plan than one you would kind of foist upon your teen. So that's part of one of the really awesome innovations that's happened recently, is to kind of flip this whole thing on its head, upside down, and the outcome of that discussion kind of blew away the parents. It was not anything they'd ever experienced before. And we know that that's a true principle, right? It's a true principle that when you can help someone understand how they can get what they want and and they create the plan with wisdom, with some guidance, with some help, then the whole goal is they own the plan. You don't have to as the parent. And that's what we want to do with the My Path.
Right. Trust comes from maturity and responsibility. We all want to give trust as fast as we possibly can, as fast as they show that they are ready for that trust. And this is what that does.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty exciting.
Really excited about that. And by the way, it's going to be gamified. So just that word alone makes it seem a little funner. And I think
less intimidating, more engaging. And one of the things that treatment programs want is more engaged parents. And that's one of the things that Trustyy does, because we try to start with Trustyy while the teen is still in treatment, getting the parents ready so that they are not behind, but they are actually in front of the game and they know what's happening and they're ready for it. And then they're excited to try out their new skills too.
Yeah. So really exciting. And that brings us to the launch. You want to talk about that?
Yes. So first of all, Tim called you the Trustyy herd. I don't know if you've seen our Trustyy logo, but it has an elephant on it. We chose the elephant because it is such a symbol of trust. It is a symbol of strength and power. The elephant is the most powerful mammal on earth. It's also because an elephant is known for its nurturing ways with its family, the leadership that it shows, the trust that is shown between all of the herd members and the matriarch of that herd. And as we started to think about what do we want to call the parents who are involved in this in a very intentional, not by chance way, we wanted them to feel like they were part of a Trustyy herd of other parents that they could learn from one another. They could be led to water by others who had gone there before. And so that's why we chose the Trustyy herd. And we hope that you want to become a part of this by listening to the podcast regularly, by downloading the app and participating in the coaching. And even if your kid has not gone to a treatment program or maybe they've been home for quite a while now, you will still benefit from hearing the successes and the challenges and offering your insights to those parents as well. So the Trustyy herd, we are starting with a launch on April 8th. It's a Tuesday night, which is our first night that we are going to be doing this for founding members. Now, our founding members, we only have 50 slots available because right now, Tim is the one that is going to be doing a lot of this work. So for some of the different packages that have private coaching, he couldn't do it all right now. So we are keeping it limited, but you are getting 50% off of any level of the Trustyy app that you choose, any level of the Trustyy program, I should say, that you choose. This price break is not going to last. It's only to just get it started and get it out there. We are talking to a lot of treatment programs, educational consultants, families directly who are very excited about this. I mean, you're talking to one right now who they're one of 70 programs, and they want something that is scalable and affordable. Right. And they have found nothing until this. And so they're rolling it out with one program, then two, and then it could go through all of them. This is a very different population from where we've worked before, but there's so many people who need it. We're just really excited to get it started with our founding members. So if you are interested in becoming a founding member of the Trustyy herd, we encourage you to go to trustyy.com, and Trustyy is spelled with 2 Y's, and click on the launch banner button that you will find at the top of the website, and that will get you started and get you registered. And we cannot wait to see you in person. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It will. Yeah, we're looking forward to April 8th, where we'll have our first parent group that night. So make sure, again, that you sign up early because spots are limited, especially those that are not just the most basic level. And also because that's right around the corner.
It's only 3 weeks away.
Only 3 weeks away.
Well, actually, by the time this is posted, it might be 2 weeks away.
Right. So go up there now and claim your spot. That bonus is a one-time thing, 50% off. It's never going to happen again. You only launch once, and we wanted to make it a splash and make it special for the early members. Well, Roxanne, this has been a lot of fun. It's fun to get to this point where we can really talk about it and get it out there to the world. and to kick off the season 5 at the same time. It's like everything is perfectly lining up here. So for this episode, to go back and just reiterate some of the key points of this episode, is that this season is going to be all about helping get the nuggets, the best ideas, the best practices in treatment that are happening inside the lab, so to speak, and get it accessible and transferable to parents into the real world. We'll be interviewing professionals in that process. We'll interview parents who've gone through it and applied those things. And so it's going to be a really exciting season. And we also then talked about the launch of Trustyy and what makes it so unique. You know, there are a lot of parent coaches out there. There are a lot of therapists out there. There's curriculum, lots of curriculum out there. But to have all of that kind of tied together and then facilitated with an app that helps you actually apply those things day in and day out, that is the third leg to the stool and the innovation that's going to take this to a new level of accessibility. And then the bonuses we offered today to encourage you to jump on quickly and get your spot. And we really look forward to getting to know you, to having those first experiences together, and to help you, begin this journey with your child coming home with confidence. And that's what it's all about.
We can't wait to meet you. We're so excited you're here. Thanks for being a part of our journey.